Good morning, students. Let's continue with the chapter 4.2, the Luncheon. We know the story is about the narrator who decides to take a lady guest to an expensive restaurant, Foyo, in Paris on a Thursday at about 12:30, uh, because she had admired whatever he had written, and she had um, expressed a desire to meet him as she was passing through Paris, and they decided to meet each other and have just a formal chat. And they, when he heard the name of the restaurant, he knew that it was a restaurant where he wouldn't be able to afford most of the delicacies that was served there. But yet, he thought that a modest luncheon wouldn't cost much, and so he decided to cut the cost of having coffee for 2 weeks. And he thought that he had 80 francs, and a modest luncheon wouldn't cost him more than 15 francs. As they reached the restaurant, and she uh, and the menu card came up, the writer was shocked when he saw the prices were a great deal higher than he had thought. But this particular lady kept on reassuring him by repeating this particular sentence or statement again and again, that I never eat anything for luncheon. Again, she makes a remark that I never have more than one thing. Okay, but the story becomes dramatic because there is a total contrast between what the woman says and what she actually does. And the irony is that she orders for many of those dishes that were not on the menu and which were very, very expensive. So first she orders for a salmon that was not there on the menu card. Then she called for caviar. Then she asked the author what he was going to eat, and when he said that he would just order for the cheapest dish on the menu card, that was a mutton chop. And then she ordered for some giant asparagus. And when she asked the author said he did not like asparagus. Okay. We waited for the asparagus to be cooked. Panic seized me. Panic, uncontrollable fear and anxiety. डर गया था वो, क्योंकि उसे अभी बिल की बहुत चिंता होने लगी थी, क्योंकि जो 3 डिशेस उसने ऑलरेडी मंगवाया था वो तो 15 फ्रैंक्स का तो डबल हो गया होगा बिल. So he was a little worried now. It was not the question of how much money I should have left over for the rest of the month, but whether I had enough to pay the bill. पूरे महीने की बात छोड़ो, लेकिन आज का जो फूड आइटम्स उसने ऑर्डर किया था, आज का जो लंचियन का बिल है, वो भी क्या मैं पे कर पाऊंगा? That is what he had started feeling. That's why he was all the while worried and tense. He was not focusing or concentrating on what she was discussing. He was just thinking about the bill. Okay? It would be mortifying. Mortifying? Something that causes us embarrassment. To find myself 10 francs short and be obliged to borrow from my guest. अगर ऐसा सिचुएशन आया कि मेरे पास 10 फ्रैंक्स कम हो, बिल ज़्यादा आया, तो मैं क्या गेस्ट से पूछ सकता हूँ, चलो मुझे 10 फ्रैंक्स दे दो, मैं बाद में तुम्हें पे तुम्हारे पास वापस वापस दे दूंगा? Very difficult. It would be so rude. It would be mortifying to find myself 10 francs short and be obliged to borrow from my guest. I knew exactly how much I had, and if the bill came to more, I made up my mind that I would put my hand in my pocket and, with a dramatic cry, start up and say, it had been picked. ये तो बिल्कुल हिंदी फिल्म के जैसे सिचुएशन हुआ, where the hero takes a heroine to a very expensive restaurant just to show off, and then suddenly he would put his hand in his pocket and with a dramatic cry say that अरे मेरा pocket तो किसी ने pick कर दिया, मेरे पास तो पैसे नहीं है. So it would be an awkward situation. Of course it would be awkward if she had not money enough either to pay the bill. अगर ऐसा situation आया कि मेरे पास पैसे नहीं है, मैं एक्सपेक्ट करता हूँ कि जो शॉर्टेज मेरे पास हुआ वो पैसे का वो भरेगी, अगर उसके पास भी पैसे नहीं हुआ तो it would be such a foolish thing, it would be such an awkward thing. Okay. Then the only thing would be to leave my watch and say I would come back and pay later. Okay, उसमें भी एक solution है. अगर ऐसा कुछ हुआ, so the writer was ready to leave his expensive watch there and come back and pay later. Then the asparagus appeared. I watched her thrust them down her throat in large mouthfuls. Okay? She started eating them. फटाफट खा कर लिया उसने. At last she finished. Coffee, I said. Now the writer was a bit desperate to bring this luncheon to an end. And so the last thing that people have is either a dessert or a coffee. So coffee, I said, just an ice cream and coffee, she answered. I was past caring now. अभी author को कुछ फर्क ही नहीं पड़ा था. पहले उसे फर्क पड़ा क्योंकि उसको लगा कि this particular lady is an admirer of my work and therefore I must be polite to her and I must try to please her. That's why he did not refuse the invitation and he invited her to have lunch. And then, because of the good manners that he had, he decided to order all the dishes that she wanted to and ordered for himself the cheapest dish on the menu, tried to please her. And he was also ready to pay the hefty bill that would come up after the luncheon. But now, it was after all this has happened that she ordered for the salmon, then caviar, then asparagus, and then finally she had ordered for an ice cream and a coffee. Now, this after making the narrator believe that she would not have anything more, she wasn't going to have anything more, she would have just one thing for luncheon. The lady friend had ordered all the expensive dishes that were available in the menu, and she had even advised him not to have a heavy meal, not to have meat because it would be heavy. And at this point of time, the author had given up all the hope that he would have any money left. So, therefore, he says that I was past caring. Now, I didn't bother. He says I was past caring to show, okay, that how careless he was about money. He didn't want to bother now about money. Just wanted to finish off with this luncheon and get back home. There is one thing I thoroughly believe in, she said as she ate the ice cream. One should always get up from a meal feeling one could eat a little more. इतना तो खा कर लिया. She finished the salmon, she finished the caviar, she ordered for asparagus, okay? Then she ordered for ice cream, and then she had the audacity or the guts to say that इतना ही थोड़ा ही खाना चाहिए, that one should feel light when one gets up after having a meal, okay? You see, I don't eat luncheon. Are you still hungry? I asked her faintly. So now the author thought that maybe she's a little hungry. That's why she's making a remark that she feels light. She's not. She's not really. Uh, she's not really satisfied with whatever she said. Oh no, I'm not hungry. You see, I don't eat luncheon. I have a cup of coffee in the morning and then dinner, but I never eat more than one thing for luncheon. I was speaking for you. Oh, I see. Then a terrible thing happened. While we were waiting for the coffee, the head waiter came up to us bearing a large basket full of huge peaches. But surely peaches were not in season then. Lord knew what they cost. So this was some seasonal fruits are always cheap because they come up a lot of it comes up in the market. But then when they're not seasonal, they are rare to find, they are very expensive. So peaches were not in season and the author was just wondering what it would cost. I knew a little later, but definitely he would come to know the cause because what had happened? For my guest going on with her conversation absent-mindedly took one. Do you think she would have done this absent-mindedly? उसने एक उठा लिया वो basket में से. So did she do it on purpose? Yes, definitely. Because it was her weakness. She was a foodie. It was her weakness to have a lot of the best of dishes. And she didn't have money or resources to pay that. So she made use of others who could pay it for. So at somebody else's expense, she liked to enjoy. So while a conversation was going on, she picked up one. You see, you have filled your stomach with a lot of meat. My one miserable little chop, and you can't eat any more. But I had just had a snack. इतना सब कुछ खाया, सैल्मन, कैवियर, एस्पेरागस, ओके, उसके बाद आइसक्रीम, कॉफी, she even had a peach, and then she's remarking that she had had just a snack, and I shall enjoy a peach. The bill came, and when I paid for it, I found that I had only enough for a quite inadequate tip. Her eyes rested for an instant on the 3 francs I left for the waiter. So it was the author's good fortune that he had carried uh, the 80 francs with him. Had he carried only the 15 francs which he thought would the modest lunch cost, then he would have been really in trouble. But the very fact that he had carried the entire amount of money and only 3 francs were remaining out of 80. So 77 francs was the total cost of that luncheon, which was almost the writer's entire month's salary. I left for the I left for the waiter. So her eyes noticed the 3 francs that he had left for the waiter. And when you have a very good lunch, which would cost 1,000 to 4,000 rupees, one is expected to keep for the waiter at least a tip of rupees 100. Okay, that would be good manners. But after having a lunch for around 6,000 or 4,000 to 6,000 rupees, if an entire group of family members leave only just a 10 to 25 rupees or a 50 rupees on the for the waiter as tip, then the waiter would hesitate to even pick it up because he would feel that अरे क्या कंजूस लोग हैं, okay, they can't give me a proper tip. They enjoyed, they had a celebration, they enjoyed so much. So he had left 3 francs for the waiter. But when I walked out of the restaurant, I had the whole month before me and not a penny in my pocket. Now that the luncheon date was over, the next worry that the next tension that was brewing up in the author's mind was about the entire month that lay ahead of him and how was he going to manage the expenses without a single penny in his pocket. बहुत ही बुरा हाल हो गया था उसका. ऐसे बुरे हाल में जिस पर्सन को छोड़ा वो क्या कभी किसी को भूल सकता है क्या? 20 years के बाद भी एक ग्लांस के वजह से उसका नाम मेंशन किया किसी ने तो ऑथर को पूरा फ्लैशबैक के जैसे वो पूरा स्टोरी और जो इंसिडेंट जो हुआ था, जो रेस्टोरेंट में हुआ था, वो पूरा उसका फ्लैशबैक उसके सामने आ गया. ओके, और वो सब चीजें जो उस लेडी ने रिलिश करके खाया था उस दिन थर्सडे के दिन फोयो रेस्टोरेंट में, वो सब उसको याद आ गया. Follow my example, she said as we shook hands, and never eat more than one thing for luncheon. If I was in the author's place, I would have told her, अरे एक चीज क्या किया है तुमने तो बहुत 4 दिन का खाना एक ही दिन में खा के लिया, एक ही टाइम में खा के लिया. Okay, so but what was her remark? She never realized what was her weakness. Okay, that is called as, what word did we describe that as? That is foible. That is some kind of strange weakness that an individual has but is mostly unaware of it. So this particular lady had the habit of eating a lot, not at her expense but at somebody else's expense. Follow my example, she said as we shook hands, and never eat more than one thing for luncheon. I will do better than that, I retorted. I answered, I will eat nothing for dinner tonight. Okay, so today I am not going to eat anything for dinner tonight. Definitely, there is no money left, so what will he eat? Humorist. What's the meaning of humorist? The one who has got a good sense of humor. So he says that, oh, you have got a good sense of humor. Yes, you're joking. So you're a comedian. Humorist, you're a comedian. She cried gaily cheerfully. Retorted, answered. Not a penny, not a single pie, not even a little bit of money in the pocket. Cheerfully, gaily, cheerfully. Humorist, she cried gaily, jumping into a cab. You are quite a humorist. So here comes, the flashback comes to an end. Now what is the present situation? this particular lady with whom he had lunch at the Foyo restaurant in Paris on a Thursday this was the author remembered every bit of the details of what had happened 20 years ago. And now today at a play, he couldn't just recognize her. He could recognize her only when someone mentioned her name. Then he called back what had happened. But I have had my revenge at last. I do not believe that I am a vindictive man. Vindictive? The one who has a strong desire for revenge. बदला लेने की भावना उसमें कभी नहीं थी. So he says that I'm not a person who would like to take revenge. उस एक दिन का जो घटना था, पूरा उसका पर्स खाली कर दिया था उसने. कुछ नहीं था उसके पास बाकी. So such a person will never be forgotten by the author lifetime. So he says that I have had my revenge at last, though I don't believe in taking revenge. But when the gods take a matter in hand, take a take a hand in the matter, it is understandable to observe the result with satisfaction. लेकिन भगवान ने मेरी मदद कर God decided to help me. Okay, He decided to help me, and I am satisfied with the result that I saw. मेरा बदला जो है वो भगवान ने ले लिया था. What is the how was the revenge taken? Today she weighs 21 stone. 21 stone is 134 kilos. Okay. So the weight of this particular lady was, she had put on so much of weight that now she weighs 134 kilos. उसमें इतना वो obese हो गई थी, मोटी हो गई थी, खाके किस किस को उल्लू बनाया मालूम नहीं, लेकिन इतना खाके पी के वो ऐसी मोटी हो गई थी. तो जिस दिन प्ले में उस पर्टिकुलर इंटरवल के टाइम द ऑथर ने उसको देखा तो वो उसे पहचान नहीं पाया, उतनी वो मोटी हो गई थी. So he says that gods had decided to take the matter in their hand and they took the revenge. अरे मुझे उल्लू बनाया खाके पीकर, अभी उसको बराबर उसको पनिशमेंट मिला है. She weighs 21 stones, that is 134 kilos. Let's go to the activities here. English workshop. Choose the correct option from the bracket and fill in the blanks below. The chief guest addressed the students. The crow was dashed to sing. The crow was unwise to sing. I invited my relatives to luncheon. Parents always insist on children to be all-rounders. The king decided to donate his wealth among his subjects generously. Generously, adverb. Okay. Go through the story again and pick out instances which create humor in the luncheon. Complete the table by picking various humorous instances, examples of humor which makes us laugh. The particular line from the story, the first one is done for you. This is again a question which is related to vocabulary, and therefore you can get such type of questions. So I want you to put a capital B here and make a note of all those instances. Okay. The woman is a voracious eater. Follow my examples and never eat more than one thing for luncheon. So though she kept on eating and ordering all the expensive dishes one after the other, she kept on remarking that the author should follow her example and never eat more than one thing for luncheon. The author decided to cut the cost for cut off coffee, not include it in his daily in his daily menu, and he thought that if he cuts down on coffee, then he'll be able to manage the expenses. So all these are like humorous instances. Again, you have uh, who said these words and sentences. Since it's a story where there is a conversation, the guest and the author, the conversation. So you have who said to whom questions, and under what circumstances these were told. These sentences or words were told. Okay, you have the printed notes with you, so you can take up all these questions from there, answers from there. We have already discussed the irony and humor, the instances of humor Just now we have discussed that. Then you have words and phrases. Uh, Pick out the words and phrases in the story that indicate that the author was not financially well off. Okay, let us come to this. The author was not financially well off beyond my means. So there are certain words which give you an idea that the author was not financially very well off, earning barely enough beyond my means. Then he could not afford it. Uh, then great deal higher than what he thought, that is more expensive than what he thought, and inadequate tip, hardly than what should, less than what should be actually paid. All these words indicate that the author was not financially well off. Okay, then you have put the events in the correct order. What all she had ordered for, what she ordered first, and what, after reading the lesson, this activity can be done. You can do it yourself. Irony. This is a very important question in this particular lesson. Irony is who said it, under what circumstances, and what is the irony which is given mentioned here. Um, the first sentence, I could cut off coffee for 2 days. There is a meaning, and the hidden meaning is something. There is a direct meaning and there's a hidden meaning to it. I should cut off coffee. I should stop drinking coffee. What's the hidden meaning? That I should stop spending money in order to save the money for some purpose. Another one, I will eat nothing for dinner tonight. The author makes a remark. That's again is an irony. That means I would skip dinner. I would skip dinner not because I want to, but I don't have money. So the narrator did not have any money because he had spent the entire month's salary on a luncheon. Oh no, I'm not hungry. You see, I don't eat luncheon. I have a cup of coffee in the morning, and then dinner, and I never eat more than one thing for luncheon. I was speaking for you. Again, this is an example of irony because the lady was asking the narrator if he wanted to eat more. Okay, after having salmon, caviar, coffee, ice cream, asparagus, peach, the lady said that she never eats more than one thing. So again, all these sentences which are mentioned here, they are all um, ironical statements. Then you have fill in the blank with a word or phrases given in the bracket in the appropriate forms. I never overload my stomach. I was startled, shocked when the menu was bought. The author caught sight of, noticed by chance. The author caught sight of the guests at the play. I had seen asparagus in shops. My mouth often watered. Okay, just because he had a desire to eat it. He wanted to taste it. His mouth often watered. The author's guest was passing through Paris. So the rest of the questions are all children related to grammar and articles, prepositions. So we come to the end of the session here, children. I hope you have understood the lesson, and we have dealt with different types of questions that can be asked here. Web diagram, irony is very important, and the statements that indicate the irony, um, expression of meaning through the use of language which signifies the opposite. There is a direct meaning and there is a hidden meaning. So that part of it you will have to revise, and you will have to remember the different statements that indicate irony. Okay. Then you have uh, who said to whom questions. So if you get a passage from this particular lesson, definitely you can have who said to whom questions, and all those instances which create humor, those statements which indicate humor. This is what you have to remember. Okay. So we come to the end of this chapter, children. I hope read the chapters thoroughly well, at least around 4 to 5 times. Start with the revision. We have already started off with the revision for English grammar, and I have sent 1 or 2 assignments. I hope you will complete these assignments, and the solution to these assignments I will be forwarding it on the WhatsApp group. Thank you, children. Have a good day.